Hello,
Hello.
Miss Wells. Thank you for sitting down in conversation with Sunset Question today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice Saturday. I'm out in LA and we're about to celebrate your birthday, so I'm doing pretty good.
My what?
It was your birthday and today is the party, so
Today
taking
is
it
the
off
party.
right.
Yeah. Only way to do it. So, let's jump into it.
Okay.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm a soul, just like all of us. I would say I know you want more of a deep answer probably. I would say I'm a seeker of knowledge. I like to question things, and I would say I'm also an explorer. I love adventures, and I really love seeking answers that, you can do that through conversations with people like this or through learning. I'm a student of life constantly. I love learning about myself every single day. So.
The soul. How
Yeah.
deep do you think the soul really goes?
Honestly, I don't even know if it's definable by us. I think that's kind of what I'm here to make progress on as much as I can in my life, is to answer that question. But
Do you feel connected to any past lives through your current soul right now?
I do. I've actually done a past life regression before. Do you know what that is?
No, can you enlighten me, please?
Yes, of course. Well, I went to a seminar by Brian Weiss, who is a psychotherapist who does past life regressions with his patients who basically are going through difficult times in therapy and can't really figure out why in the context of this current life. So he brings them into a hypnosis. And so I went to a seminar, and there's about 100 people. We were in a hotel conference room thing, and
Okay.
we all went into this meditation, and he guided us through this practice. And the first time I didn't have an experience, which I think is important to note, because you're not always going to be able to go that deep in one of these. It's kind of like a practice. So the second time we did it, I had an experience where the past life that I experienced, I wouldn't have chosen. So that's how I know I didn't make it up, because I would have never chosen what I experienced. It's kind of dark.
Do you want to share that with us?
Sure.
Is it worth it?
Yeah. So in the past life, I remember he had said in the meditation to look at your clothing, look at what you're wearing, look at your environment. And I was in rags. I didn't have shoes on. I was in the middle of the desert, and I was walking towards this what looked like a town of some kind that I wasn't allowed in. In the regression, I knew that I was exiled from this town or kingdom or whatever it was.
Do you think that's paralleled into your current life right now?
I do feel like a little bit of an outsider in my life, just because.
You are, for sure.
Yeah, I'm an astrologer, and so sometimes that freaks people out or makes me feel a little different than other people, because I'm constantly thinking about what's going on in the cosmos. And I think that I've also just been more of an outcast in my growing up years. Not really sure why, but I've just always had a depth to myself that I think it's hard for other people to meet me there. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes one to know one.
That's true.
Do you feel like you can get down to that level of people very early on, and that has always been innate with you? Or did you ever have an experience in your life that really changed your personal philosophy making you who you are now?
Yeah, I would say that I was more shy growing up, and my spiritual path kind of unfolded through a series of more challenging life events, like going through like a death of someone I knew, or kind of feeling a little bit bored with the life path that I was kind of like set out to lead. I was going to school to become a therapist, and I wasn't really feeling that connected to that. I wanted something deeper, something to satisfy the seeker in me. So I got more into like esoteric things like astrology, and also, yeah, philosophy, learning about philosophy. And honestly, just experiences that were challenging almost like propelled me forward into being a little bit more outgoing, to be my true self with people immediately. So now I find that I can't really do like surface level conversations or friendships or relationships.
It's very tough.
Yeah, it's definitely tough for me.
So with all the experiences that you've had throughout your entire life, what's something that you believe in that not many other people do, or maybe they should, based off of your new perspective?
I think people believe elements of this, and I'll get to it, but I think that as an astrologer, I believe in a fated, ordered cosmos. Like, I feel like
Did you say fated?
fated, yeah.
Okay,
Not
fated.
fated. I
Okay.
mean, there's a time and place for that in my life, but at this point,
For sure.
I'm more about fate. Like,
Thank you.
I feel that some of the beliefs I hold that go along with what I've learned about ancient astrologers centuries ago, kind of they don't rub people the wrong way, but almost like threaten someone's belief of free will. And so I try to explain to people that I do think that we have free will. I just feel that what we're already going to choose is fated, if that makes sense. And so that kind of, I lose people there a little bit, because, in my astrology readings that I do, I can kind of see like certain chapters of people's lives and how they might respond to the energies. And even in my own chart, I'll see something in the future and be like, I wonder how I'm going to arrive to that point, because I don't feel that way now. And then all of a sudden I get there and I do arrive to that point. But it's not that the transits and astrology is causing it. It's more reflecting that I've already arrived to that place in my life. And so in that way, we do have free will, and every choice we make is our authentic choice. I just think that there's an ordered cosmos that has the ability to reflect back to us how we're going to act in a certain era of our lives.
Absolutely. Something you said to me the other day that really blew my mind was the concept of there are no wrong decisions that you make in your life, and that whatever you do and what happens is meant to be. And based off of what takes place is part of the process.
Yeah, I often say that I don't believe in mistakes. I think that we can make choices that have outcomes and consequences that are not preferable, but I wouldn't define it as a mistake, because everything that we do helps us learn more about who we are, what we want. It helps us learn more about other people that we're in relationships with. And that's why I always advocate for like doing whatever you want, because that desire and that intuitive insight that you have to do something or to not do something is trying to guide you. And I think that, you can call something a mistake, but you usually learn something like pretty profound from like the big mistakes that we make in life.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to listen to their gut?
I think that we Yeah, that's a good question. I think that a lot of us are afraid to have our own agency and to trust that what we will choose is best for us. And I think it just comes down to like self love and just trusting yourself that you know what's best for you. And even in our our humanness, we'll make choices that maybe we want to change later on. But in doing that, you get closer to your intuition that way and your gut feelings. So yeah, I even myself, I sometimes struggle with listening to like a gut feeling, but that process of me not listening to it a bunch of times has created a stronger intuition.
How much of that do you think has to do with safety?
Safety in in terms of like us feeling safe to
Familiarity in old ways.
yeah, I think it's human nature to prefer what's familiar, even if it causes suffering, because at least we know what to expect. And yeah, there's several books by Don Miguel Ruiz. He talks a lot about this, where like we're wired to be negative. Like we're wired to look out for threats because back in the day we had to survive. But at this time, our body doesn't know the difference between running from a lion and getting insulted by our boss at work. It's the same physiological reaction that we're unsafe. So I think, yeah, there's like this illusion of like, I'll be safe if I just like fit in the confines of what's expected of me right now. But over time, you actually create a lot of like trauma in your body by not listening to your intuition and living out your authentic self.
What would you say to somebody that's feeling trapped and wants to get to the next level and knows that they have some areas in their life that they need to improve on, as we all do? What have you been able to do?
Yeah.
How have you broken through?
I would say like what I've done to break through those times is to just sit with my uncomfortable emotions. I think a lot of the time, like when we're in a rough spot, it's uncomfortable, so we want to get to a place that's comfortable and safe. But if we bypass that stage of sitting with our discomfort, it's just going to pop up again in another time.
What does that mean to truly sit with these thoughts?
I think it means to process through them in your own time, in your own way. So for some people that might be journaling, for some people that might be going to therapy, talking to a friend. But I do believe that it's so important to have relationships in your life where you feel safe and like accepted to share openly, even if you're just sharing your stream of consciousness. Like there's something very powerful about that in helping you get out of a certain spot. I found for me that conversations and sharing has helped me realize something, even if the other person doesn't even say anything back to me. Like just the act of telling someone what I'm going through. Yeah. Something I learned in a 12-step program that I was in years ago is that you're only as safe as your secrets. So it's like if you have something that you are ruminating on and you're not sharing it with someone else, it's like it almost like lives within you and creates like a blockage from your intuition. And I think that sharing openly with someone that you trust, even if it's just one person, it like unlocks the potential of healing from that and tapping deeper into that soul part of you that knows what to do. I think that feeling of stuckness that you talked about earlier is like just what happens when we continuously deny our gut feelings or like to silence them and like live within the expectations of others, whether it's your parents, your boss, friends, relationships. It's so important to like sit with that because you will eventually discover, oh, I'm not in alignment with like what I truly want right now. And that's maybe why I'm not motivated.
What do you think causes the misalignment from the get-go? And I know I asked you this before, but if you realize that you're misaligned and you want to get back to where you were as a baseline and then progress to become your ideal version of yourself, what would be one tip that you would give somebody to be able to make that happen?
So you said what causes it? I think what causes it is, I think a lot of us are people pleasers, and so we care a lot about how we appear. Like, appearances in general are so important, when really, like, genuine connections love you more when you're just your raw self.
Absolutely.
My tip for how to get through.
Okay. Zella.
Some visitors.
Hey. Come here. Come here. Keep going if you can.
So my tip for how to get past that, I kind of already said this, but just like allowing yourself to be uncomfortable is really important, I think.
So true.
Because in doing that, you strengthen your threshold of comfort, and life is hard, and there's going to be difficult things that come. And I feel like it's so important to just, get comfortable with being uncomfortable sometimes, because it's a skill that we need to progress through life's challenges and the ups and downs. And another tip I would say is just, whether you like go to a professional for therapy or you just read a book about self-help or mental health, like, mental health is so important. And I think our generation is like way more in tune with that than in the past. But I think that is the main block, is like realizing that we do have the ability to compartmentalize things, and we can act, one way, but our body remembers certain things that happen in our lives. And when you start getting into your mental health journey, it's kind of like self-mastery, like just understanding like what it feels like in your body when you need alone time, or what it feels like when you need a connection, or when you need sleep, like just the basics. Routine, I think, is really important for people. And for people who are too regimented, having more freedom, I think, is important. So I think it's really unique for each person.
What have you done recently to put yourself outside of your own comfort zone?
This. And
what are you talking about?
I would say, well, I recently, this year in 2024, made a really tough decision about a relationship, and it was a really tough choice to make, and it was outside my comfort zone, because like I was saying earlier, I was getting very comfortable with the familiar, but I had this thought of like, if I change this part of my life, I don't know what is going to come. And normally we attribute the unknown to like discomfort, but that's really just an assumption. And the unknown is so expansive that if we give some thought to the challenging parts, then we also have to give thought to like the possibilities. And so I think one thing I've done is just really listened to what I need, even if it means upsetting other people. And so I guess the way I would say it is like setting more boundaries in my relationships so that I can grow as a person, and that my relationships will be strengthened because of it.
I'm really proud of you for everything that you've done in the past
Thank you.
6 months.
Thank you.
It's very impressive and inspirational.
I appreciate that.
I am proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think like times like these something that gets me through it, like whenever I'm going through something difficult, what gets me through it is thinking about how I'll be able to help someone later on in my life because of the experience.
That is so true.
Yeah.
So true. You have to think that because you've experienced something before, if you can pass that message on to a friend or even a passerby that you don't really know, it can impact them on such a different level than you never would have realized indirectly.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So many of the best conversations I've had in the last couple years are only possible, like the insights that I brought were only possible because of the dark things I went through like 8 years ago. So I always think about that now, like, oh, this is kind of a tough year for me, but I already know, like, I can feel that later on this year is going to be such an important, like, reflective time where I'll do something to make meaning out of it that I'm not even conscious of it yet.
I know you will.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was joking with my roommate this morning about something that happened to me in the past with the relationship not working out. And because of that not working out, it ultimately ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it opened up my world to all these different possibilities and experiences and people I was able to meet. And I would not be living where I'm living right now if that wouldn't have happened. So I'm extremely grateful, even though in the moment it was the hardest thing I'd ever been through and complete emotional turmoil without a doubt. But now I feel so much stronger and have a completely different view on relationships in a really positive way, partially because I was able to keep my heart malleable. You know, that was something that I learned from a surfer named Rich Pavel, who was one of the originators of the Fish down in San Diego. And after my breakup about 4 years ago, I was down there and was able to actually meet him, which was really incredible, and let him know about everything that was going on. He told me, don't be jaded. Like, everything, like, no matter what I say right now, you're still going to feel how you feel, and that's okay. You need to feel those emotions, but just know that if they were your person, that wouldn't have happened. And
exactly,
it's okay. Like, you just have to appreciate the good times that you had, and then look forward to the future connections that you'll have in the future.
Yeah. And every relationship that ends is not a failed relationship.
No.
It's like you learn so much about yourself through all your connections with different humans in your life. And I think it's so important to see relationships as successful, even if they end badly. It's like, you learn so much, and then you're more informed about what you want and don't want in the future.
I think one of the most important things for people individually when going through a breakup is to acknowledge what they did wrong, because there's always two sides to the situation at hand, and to simply look at your partner and say that it was their fault for whatever happened is not fair, and it's the easiest cop-out that you could do to try to avoid learning. So when I went through my whole situation, I had so much introspection going on where I was able to process my thoughts by writing them out in a poetic sense, but I acknowledged what I could and should have done better. And I'm excited for the next opportunity that I get, because I know what happened to the best of my knowledge and understanding, like, what I could have done better as a partner.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of this exact quote, and I might butcher it, but it's like, if there are relationships are like a chemical reaction. When two substances come together, if there's any reaction, both are transformed as a result. And so I think that seeing your relationships that way can be a really beautiful thing, even if you have to separate from someone, because both parties are transformed as a result and learn something about themselves to bring forward in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that where the term toxic comes from with chemical reactions? People overuse that word a lot.
I know, it's so overused
Yeah.
because we all have a little bit of that, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all have our quirks about ourselves. No one's perfect. And if you
Yeah.
think you are, then
You're not.
the only one that's perfect is Zella.
Yeah, honestly.
Except she pees everywhere. But hey, what's she gonna do? The girl gets excited when she sees people she loves. All right. What else do I got for you here? What's your favorite question to ask people when you're trying to get to know them on a deeper level?
On a deeper level.
Yeah, I thought you didn't like just to chit chat about bullshit.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I would ask this to like a stranger too. But probably just to keep it not astrology related. Probably like, what is inspiring you right now? Or if we really want to go deep, have you ever felt like lost in life, and what brought it out? What brought you out of that?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I like to ask like about the darker parts of life, because I know we all experience it, but it's not as easy to talk about. And I'm just someone who likes to connect on like a deeper level in that way. Vulnerability is so attractive, I think, with people.
Yeah.
So I like to ask about those things. And of course, I obviously ask like stuff about someone's astrology chart to get to know them.
Of course you do. What a shocker. I'm going to pivot to another question.
Okay.
What is the meaning of life to you? And before you answer, I want to also throw out that this is not a cliche. To me personally, it has a lot of significance because I took a class in college where our whole like thesis at the end of it was well, actually you got to choose your own thesis, and that's what I chose mine on, ironically. So I'm
Yeah.
always curious on what people's responses to that.
Yeah. I think the meaning of life is to enjoy the passing of time. Time is constantly passing, and I think a lot of us try to like come up with this profound answer to the question, and really I think the meaning is to make every moment of your life enjoyable, to enjoy the passing of time, because eventually life will end. If we are to accept life, we have to accept death. And I think that enjoying every moment, or at least trying to learn something from every moment, is important. I also think the meaning of life is to develop connection and community. I think without relationships, life, you could get so much more meaning from your life by connecting with other people and not being afraid to be vulnerable with other people.
Absolutely. I love how you spoke about enjoying the passing of time, right? And that's a beautiful way to really look at it, because that's essentially what's happening. It's so easy to look at a small time horizon of a day or a week or a month, year, 5, 10 years, whatever it might be. And for me personally, what I have been trying to do to enjoy the passing of time throughout my everyday life, despite what I'm doing, is to appreciate the beauty in the small things. This is, you see the butterfly glance by your window randomly, or the hummingbird actually is specifically what happens for me out in my office. And I look at that and go, oh wow, that's incredible. I can't believe that. Or every time I pull into my driveway here, I see my neighbor and he is working on his truck typically, and I'll toss him some deuces and he'll say hi back to me. And it's those small little things that make such a difference. Or And it's easy to overlook them, but having
Yeah.
gratitude is really, really huge. Something that I always try to, and no one's perfect, right? Like I might say this right now, but that doesn't mean that I am incredible at it. It's just philosophy that we're trying to build on. But it's so easy to think about what you don't have or what you want when it really should be the focus of looking at what you already do have and trying to capitalize on top of that in terms of appreciation, because we truly have, well, we're so lucky, right? And we have running water, we have some good friends.
Yeah,
We could,
just the basics.
those little things to us that are so minuscule, where you just pay your utility bill, versus someone who lives in a remote jungle having to walk a mile to 5 miles a day to get water for their village, and they don't have the resources to go to school. I mean, they were born into that.
Yeah.
And we were born here. So trying to hold that in the back of your mind and appreciating the moment is so key.
Yeah, gratitude is so powerful and really can help you out of a negative headspace at any time. If you just like name 5 things that you're grateful for,
Yeah.
changes everything.
I think it's really important to tell your friends that you love them too,
Oh yes,
or your
I
family.
think so too.
Because we were talking to our friend Sam about everything going on today, and it's so important to check in with each other.
Yeah.
Because we've all lost people. I lost my friend Sophia last year, and you never really know when your last time with somebody will be your last time with somebody, because nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the meaning of life, in a sense, is appreciating the current moment that's happening right now. Because you want to hope and believe that we have this huge future ahead of us, which we absolutely do. But on the other hand, anything can happen with, I don't want to say the state of the world, but it's a real reality of
for real.
what's going on right now. And
Yeah.
I think the meaning of life right now to me is just sitting down in conversation with Kelsey Faith Wells. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Kelsey.
Yeah, and I also
Kelsey.
I think it's so
Edit that out, please. Kevin. Kevin.
Oh my god, hey Kevin.
Or John Marco.
I also think like part of enjoying the passing of time for me is like when I'm, let's say, like at Target and there's a long line and everyone's like frustrated, like trying to like, oh, I'm late, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like I am that person that will start talking to the person next to me.
I love it.
And as a kid, I'd always be like, oh, my mom is like so weird. Like she always talks to strangers.
Mom.
That is me now. I'm always starting a conversation with someone. And I recently listened to a Mel Robbins podcast. I love her.
Me too.
She did this episode where they were just presenting research studies that show like different things you can do to increase your happiness.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she talked about was like giving a random compliment.
Yes.
I can't remember the statistics, but I know that it was significant enough. There was a study about it where giving a compliment not only increases that person's happiness, but it also increases your own.
Absolutely.
So I'm always like, if I see a girl and she has like the cutest nails, I know she thought about it.
Yep.
Gonna say something. Or if I see someone who just, it looks like they need a little encouragement, I will be the one to do it. And I don't do it for the happiness it brings me, but it's just a benefit.
Sure. That's what they all say when they compliment.
I know.
Nice glasses.
Oh, thank you. They're his.
No, they're not. Lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
What else do you got?
Let's end it on this. What's a question? I've seen this from another podcast, so it's super original.
Okay.
What's a question that you want me to pass on to the next person that I talk to in conversation with?
How has your worldview changed recently and why?
Perfect.
Your perspective on life, your worldview, just your perspective on your own life or life itself. How has it shifted recently and why?
That's honestly my favorite concept to talk to people about all the time. I mean, if you could start to get down to that level sooner than later, it's 10 times better.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about today? Anything else? Or ask me. You can ask me.
I have a question for you.
Oh boy.
What was your greatest achievement of year 28? And what is your goal? What is one goal you have for year 29? Because it was just his birthday.
My greatest accomplishment this past year, work-wise, was getting my EPA license in addition to my contractor's license.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I stayed in multiple weekends by myself working at Starbucks to make that happen, studying. Yeah. I think something else that should be celebrated as well is the appreciation of the close friends that I do have, and just like all the small good moments that you try to hold on to. That's a huge accomplishment.
I agree.
No specifics, but having that art show actually was when I was 28 with Kevin and meeting you there. And
I know, that was a peak. We've only known each other for 6 months, but it's also been like lifetimes, I feel.
Same. Yeah. Last question for you.
Okay.
So, and I think I already know your answer because we've talked about this before, but we have to open it up to the world. So, the concept of soulmates, being a romantic partner, of course, is it possible to have multiple in your life? And do you what's your thoughts and views on love? Like, can you really tap into the right connection with one person, and when you find that right person, and be happy with them until you die?
I believe we have multiple soulmates. I don't believe there's just one person for each of us.
But pause. Do you think that for some people, they can just have one soulmate and that works with them?
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Me too.
I think so.
I think my parents are soulmates for each other.
Yeah. My parents are still married. They've been married for like 40 years. But I mean, there were some people before that for both of them. So it just depends. And I think, like, I've heard stories of people who met in high school and they're still together and all of that. But I think there's like so much of a spectrum with like there's no normal, because especially in our like era,
there's no rules to this game, folks.
So much access to different people with social media and stuff. And like, it used to be like, oh, like so and so lives down the street, I guess I'll marry Steve because he's right there.
But now it's like, one time?
No, I didn't.
Different Steve then. Sorry.
Oh, I mean,
keep going.
I did date someone named Steve, but
not surprising.
He didn't live down the street.
Oh.
But I mean, now we have, access to so many different ways to meet people. So I think
that's true.
It's just different now. And like, I think people are settling down later in life because there's not as much of a focus on relationships as much as there is on like being our authentic selves. And I think it's so important to, like, if you are looking for your partner right now and you're listening to this, like, I think it's so important to just focus on really getting to know yourself and putting so much more thought into like your own self-development, because then you will meet the right person. And if you skip that step, the compatibility can be tough because you're growing and understanding yourself in a relationship with someone. And so there's ways in which your growth can be stunted. But I know there are also people who meet each other and grow together. And so, yeah, I think relationships are completely unique to that person. And I think we have multiple soulmates, and it's all about trusting the timing of what you feel is right in your gut. You know, like if you feel like that person is the right person, you know, you may as well try it, because there's no mistakes in life. And so either way, you're going to learn.
Only lessons. So do you think that your concept of having multiple soulmates is because have you had a prior soulmate before in the past?
Yeah, I feel like, honestly,
how many?
Cheesy, but like I feel like every person I've been with has been like a very significant connection to me.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of casual surface level dating relationships. They've all been very deep, and each one of them unlocked a lot for me about myself. And yeah, but yeah, I think that for me, I mean, not to go astrology here, but I have my Venus in Aquarius, and usually people who have that placement, they are a little bit more free and liberated with love. So like it doesn't surprise me that I feel like I've had many soulmates. And I can't wait to meet the next one. If you're out there.
Me too. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
All right. This was Sunset Question in conversation with Kelsey Faith Wells.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here today. All right. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Got it.
Yay.